Hey friend, it's time to look at 2024 and start planning our year. This is the last video in a short series I have put together to help us gently close out the current year and ease our way into 2024. In the most recent video, we brainstormed goals that were meaningful to us. If you have followed the series so far, then you should have a list of about 5 goals that you feel motivated to work on and that you are willing to put some effort into achieving in 2024. But before you start marking up your 2024 calendar, I want to discuss 2 key ideas that will absolutely affect how you pursue your goals in the new year. The first idea is to assume that you will be as busy next year as you were this year, if not more. Unless there are drastic things changing in your life, like going from working full-time to going part-time, or maybe finishing school, or changing some major commitment in your day-to-day life, things won't magically slow down and be easier in the new year. Everyday things will fill up your entire time, so you have to actively make space to work on your new goals. If you have felt pressed for time this year, and you're planning to add new activities in the new year, you really need to consider what activities you are willing to decrease or eliminate altogether. The low-hanging fruit is to obviously cut down on how much time you spend passively consuming content from social media, from various streaming services like Netflix and Hulu, and really generally all forms of media, including the news and print media. But it could also be things like cutting down on commuting if you can, and reducing how much time you spend hanging out with people who drain your energy or encourage you to engage in behaviors that you could probably do less of in 2024. Think about regular social interactions where you meet with friends and you spend your time gossiping, talking about celebrities, complaining about the same things over and over again, or trying to one-up each other on who has it the worst or who has the most on their plate. And I'm not saying you need to cut out all the people you care about, but maybe you can change what you do when you hang around these people so that these interactions actually help you move forward with your goals. So maybe a friend that you used to sit around and gossip with would be open to going on walks with you, or trying a fun exercise class, or maybe even some kind of an arts and craft course. Think about how you can get creative with those activities so that they allow you to still hang out with the people you like, but also help you get closer to your goals. Generally, just consider all the things you could do less of, or how you can use your time differently so that you can make space to work on your goals. There has to be a little bit of intentional life design to make sure that the things you desire actually have a chance to happen. The second idea is to have a multi-scale approach to your goals. The key thing here is to make sure that all your goal activities don't overlap. Because remember that all of this new stuff has to fit within your current life with a few reasonable and realistic adjustments. While it may feel amazing to imagine that you'll just turn into a brand new person on January 1st, it is not realistic to assume that all your current commitments and constraints will go away. So one thing I like to make sure of is that all my goals have different time horizons. Maybe I have one goal that changes my day-to-day behaviors and activities, one or a couple that happen on a monthly or quarterly basis, and one or two that can be achieved over a longer period of time, let's say 6 months or a year. So take a look at your goals and see if they all naturally fall on different timescales. For me, setting multiple goals that affect my daily routine simultaneously is a recipe for disaster. I am kind of set in my ways, and I'm assuming you are too. And I don't want to add too many challenging new things every day, because I still have to be able to function. For example, I would not want to stack multiple daily goals like doing morning pages every day, adding meditation to my morning routine, going on a completely different diet than I'm used to, starting an exercise regimen that I have to do every day if I wasn't already doing it, and added a brand new 10-step skincare routine at the end of my day. Each one of these changes will require a certain amount of effort and discipline. If you're anything like me, and I suspect you are, you cannot make all of those changes while working full-time, taking care of everyday things, spending time with your family, making time to rest and recharge, and having any kind of social life. That is just too much pressure to put on yourself every single day. If I had to change or add a bunch of new daily habits, I would try to do one thing at a time and wait until it is completely ingrained in my routine and it becomes almost second nature before adding something else. And to be realistic, that could take months. So if you have multiple goals that affect your daily routine, I would strongly recommend spacing them out. Maybe try to add a new thing every other month or once a quarter. It is much better to implement 3 lasting changes successfully in the span of 12 months than it would be to try 10 different things and fail at all of them. Let's take a look at a more realistic example of multi-scale goal setting. Let's say your 5 goals for 2024 are to start a daily writing practice, to lose a certain amount of weight, to pay off some kind of debt, let's say it's a car loan, to go back to school for an MBA. And the last one is to take 3 mini vacations in 2024. Maybe it's a combination of a staycation, a road trip, and a bigger trip somewhere fancy. Looking at that list, number 1 and number 2 will affect your daily routine and require daily efforts, whereas the other goals will require intentionality and some level of planning, but they won't require daily actions from you. If you choose 1 and 2 at the same time, that is a lot of pressure to put on yourself daily, especially since losing weight can have multiple components to it. I'm assuming it'll include something related to your nutrition and some form of movement at the very least. My recommendation would be to pick one of those to start with, and then once you feel that you've successfully ingrained it into your routine, then you can pursue the second goal. But if you feel ambitious and decide to do both at the same time, I will encourage you to consider what happens when your goals are competing. Which one will you prioritize? Imagine you've had a really busy day at work and you haven't had a chance to work on your personal goals. After a long and difficult day, you get home and you have 30 minutes to yourself in the evening. How will you prioritize what you do in those 30 minutes? Will you use that time to meal prep to support your weight loss goal? Will you use the 30 minutes to do some exercise, again, to support your weight loss goal? Or will you use the 30 minutes to fulfill your writing goal? If you combine multiple goals that affect you on a daily basis, you may have to make tough decisions when it comes to prioritizing what you do. Going back to our list, if you put number 1 and number 3 together, you have a much better chance to accomplish both of them. Paying off your car loan can be something you can somewhat automate. Maybe you sit down at the beginning of the year, figure out your budget, and decide how much you have to pay every month to pay it off by a certain date. Once you've decided on a minimum monthly commitment, then you can just automate that by creating a direct payment, or your monthly action item becomes to make that extra payments. There wouldn't be a whole lot for you to work on a daily basis. And that would free up your daily capacity to commit to your writing goal. Now let's take a look at the combination of 3 and 4. Those two don't have to happen at the same time. They don't have to overlap. Maybe you decide to finish paying your car loan before you sign up for the MBA. Number 5 is mostly a planning effort that does not require your energy on a day-to-day or on a weekly basis. I strongly recommend having a good mix of goals so you don't drive yourself to burnout. Now let's get to the meat of planning 2024. This is where you can pull out your calendar if you'd like. Starting at the year level, take a look at all of the meaningful dates that will happen in 2024. Do you have a busy or slow season at work? And how can you use that to help further your goals? What about tax season? If you're expecting a refund, that could be a great time to speed up your loan payoff. Maybe you can plan those mini vacations around your birthday month or another significant date, or around national holidays so you can maximize your time off without having to use your paid time off. Think about the broad strokes of your year and how you can strategically use the timing to your advantage. How can you plan your goals to coincide with the natural flow of your year? Then take a look at your quarters. Here, we're not looking at specific dates necessarily, but we are looking at the quarterly progress you'd like to make in order to achieve all your goals by the end of the year. So here you break up your yearly goals into quarterly goals. So to achieve X goal by the end of December, I need to achieve A by the end of March, and I need to be at B by the end of June, etc. And for your goals that will not take up the entire year, try to line them up by quarter and try to make them sequential if possible. Think about our earlier example of paying off your car loan before you start the MBA program. It doesn't mean that you can't start applying for the MBA program earlier in the year. Work out the timing so that those two goals can align nicely. Next, schedule your checkpoints for each quarter. If you don't periodically stop and evaluate your progress, you may get to the end of the year and realize that you completely missed your goals. That's why quarterly check-ins are important. Now, my preference would be to have monthly checkpoints and probably a weekly check-in with yourself. But if that's too much planning, I would say that quarterly is the absolute minimum you should do. You can easily pick a recurring time and schedule it on your calendar. Or if you use a paper calendar, you can put a note for yourself at the end of each quarter or at the beginning of each quarter to sit down and review your goals. Next, do some planning at the monthly level. I prefer not to do all 12 months at once. I typically plan just a month ahead. The reason for this is that I don't want to be too rigid, and I don't think it's realistic to plan an entire year month by month from the beginning. We need to leave enough room so that we can adjust what we are doing as we go through the year and learn from our experiences. It's normal to make a lot of assumptions about how things will play out while we're planning. But after we try them for a bit, it is very likely that we will need to go back and adjust a few things. Planning 1 month at a time allows us to be adaptable as we go. So looking at your months, think about what you need to do in order to be on track with your quarterly goals. Also take a look at all 4 weeks and see if there's anything that'll make certain weeks busier than others. If you have a big report due at work, you need to consider how that affects the rest of your goals for that particular week. Looking at all 4 weeks allows you to adjust the workflow and to redistribute your work around things that you can see coming up, like travel, deadlines at work, and other disruptions throughout your month. Lastly, my most minute planning happens at a weekly level. When planning your week, I recommend thinking through how much time you need to rest and recover first and put that on the calendar. Then work everything around that. Fill in all your non-negotiable commitments and see how much time you have left, realistically. Decide in advance when you think you'll work on what, and give yourself some backup slots. So maybe your goal is to go exercise on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. If, for whatever reason, one of these days doesn't work out, your backup day could be Thursday or Saturday morning. Just think through your week and what needs to happen in order for you to feel like you've accomplished everything that matters to you. That, in a nutshell, is how I plan my entire year. First, I make sure that my goals are on different time scales. Then, I look at the broad strokes of my year and identify meaningful dates that I like to plan around. Then I set quarterly goals and plan my quarterly check-ins with myself. And then I plan the next month ahead. And lastly, I plan the next week ahead in the most amount of detail. I don't necessarily do daily planning because I use my weekly plan to orient me on what I need to do every day. I really hope this exercise was helpful for you, and I would love to hear if you do anything different with your planning. Have fun planning your year ahead and drop me a comment to let me know how it is going. Remember to take care of yourself and practice self-compassion, and I'll see you in the next video.